A rope is cutting into a 50-ton whale's mouth. It has been thrashing for hours, exhausted, trapped. Then a team of divers, each one smaller than one of its fins, swims in with knives, and the whale goes still. Why would a wild animal, with every evolutionary reason to fear us, let us touch it? Does it actually know we're helping? Or is that just a comforting story we tell ourselves after the fact? This isn't a simple yes or no question. It's one of the most genuinely contested rabbit holes in animal behavior science. By the end of this video, you'll never look at a wild animal the same way again. First, a little history. For centuries, science insisted animals were basically biological machines. Stimulus in, reaction out. No inner life, no real understanding, just reflex. There was even a formal rule for this. Never assume a complex mental process when a simpler one will do. A dog isn't guilty after wrecking your couch. It just learned that a certain face means trouble is coming. That caution had its place. But we overcorrected, hard. For decades, the idea that animals might have rich inner lives was treated as unscientific. Then the research started rolling in, and it turns out animals are doing a lot more than we ever gave them credit for. Start with dolphins, one of the most well-documented cases in the field. In 2013, off Hawaii, a wild bottlenose dolphin with a fishing hook buried in its pectoral fin approached a group of night divers. It didn't flee, it swam straight to one specific diver and held still while he worked on the hook. When the tangled line made it hard to reach, the dolphin repositioned its own body, rotating to give him a better angle. No training, no food reward, no prior relationship with this human. Just a problem, a stranger, and something that looks a lot like a decision. I can't fix this myself. Maybe you can. Then there are crows and ravens, birds that solve multi-step puzzles, use tools, plan ahead, and, remarkably, hold grudges. Researchers at the University of Washington trapped crows while wearing one specific mask, then walked around campus afterward wearing either that mask or a neutral one. Crows that had personally been trapped mobbed the threatening mask on sight. But so did crows that had never been anywhere near the original trapping, because they'd effectively been told. Crows gossip. They build reputational profiles of individual humans and pass warnings through the flock. But here's the flip side nobody talks about enough. Crows remember kindness the same way. People who feed them get gifts back. Buttons, glass, shiny trinkets, left exactly where the food goes. That's not hoarding, that's reciprocity. If that architecture exists for kindness, it almost certainly runs for rescue too. Now the skeptic's objection, which is fair. Maybe the animal isn't understanding anything. Maybe it's just too exhausted or injured to flee. That's real, and it explains some cases. But it doesn't explain all of them. Elephants have been filmed freeing herd mates from mud pits using their trunks. And in the wild, rangers have documented entire herds moving carefully around injured humans instead of stampeding, sometimes lingering nearby until the person was found by others. In multiple documented cases, wild elephants have also been observed covering the bodies of deceased humans with branches and leaves, the same mourning behavior they display for their own dead. That's not a reflex, and it's not self-preservation. It's something scientists now formally call cross-species empathy, and it's a genuinely studied phenomenon. Here's where science tried to draw a hard line between feeling something and understanding help specifically. Researchers working with wild-born Capuchin monkeys set up scenarios where a human would either help or obstruct a monkey trying to reach food, while a different monkey simply watched. Afterward, the observing monkeys were offered food by either human. Overwhelmingly, they picked the helper, even when the unkind act hadn't happened to them at all, only to some other monkey with no relationship to them. They weren't just tracking who was good to them personally. They were tracking who was good, period. Now, the part every viral rescue video conveniently skips. Tonic, immobility. When a wild animal is trapped, injured, or terrified, its body can shut down completely, frozen, limp, unmoving. From the outside, that can look exactly like calm acceptance. It isn't, and confusing the two is a real problem. Wildlife rehabilitators know the difference. A truly settled animal breathes differently, holds its muscles differently, and sometimes leans into contact rather than merely enduring it. One raptor rehabilitator described birds that, weeks into recovery, would turn their heads specifically toward the sound of her footsteps. Not a stranger's, hers. That's not shut down. That's a map being redrawn. This particular person is not the danger. Which brings us back to that whale. December 2011, San Francisco Bay. A humpback was found entangled in crab trap lines cutting into its mouth and fins. Divers spent over an hour cutting it free, working methodically around an animal that could have ended every one of them with a single involuntary movement. It didn't move, and when the last rope was finally cut, the whale didn't just vanish into the deep. It circled back and approached each diver individually, slowly and deliberately. One diver described being nudged, gently but firmly. Another said the whale positioned itself so its grapefruit-sized eye was level with his face, and simply stayed there. Why would this capacity even exist in the first place? Evolutionarily, it's almost paradoxical. For most of shared history, a human approaching a wild animal has meant danger. The likely answer is that social species, dolphins, elephants, primates, corvids, evolved brains built to constantly read intention within their own groups. Threat or ally, that machinery doesn't care what species is standing in front of it. Slow movement, no threat posture, a calm voice. The signal reads the same no matter who's sending it. The animal doesn't need to know what a human is. It just needs to recognize what kindness looks like. And it's worth being honest about the failures too. Some rescued animals never relax and bolt the instant the door opens. Exactly what a healthy wild animal should do. Others become dangerously comfortable around humans, which is why rehabilitators often feed from behind barriers and use puppets instead of bare hands. So here's what this actually means. Every time you slow down for an animal crossing the road, or move a turtle off the asphalt, that moment doesn't vanish. It gets filed. In a crow's memory, in a herd's caution, in the behavior an animal carries into its next encounter with a person. Somewhere out there, something is quietly deciding what kind of creature you are. You might as well make it a good one.